Assalamu alaikum. Hope you are doing well and safe. Welcome back. This is part 5 in our learning series in managing storage devices. This part is about managing drive letters and labels. So by the end of this video, you will be able to demonstrate your knowledge and hands-on skills on managing the drive letters and labels of the drives using both graphical user interface and command line interface tools. What we mean, first of course, we will define what is a drive letter and a drive label. Then we will talk about the default value of the drive label, the maximum and allowed characters of a drive label, setting, changing, and deleting drive letters and drive labels, and then about the requirements that you need to do all these tasks. As you can see, when you run File Explorer and go to this PC, you will see your partitions, your drives, or your logical drives. As you can see, each drive has a letter, normally with a column as an appended. This is what we refer to as the drive letter. So each one has a drive letter. For example, here A, this is C. Normally C drive is where your operating system is installed. This is G, this is H. So these are the drive letters. So the drive letter is a single character with a column, and it is assigned to each drive in your computer. Now, you cannot assign the same drive letter to two different drives. So each drive will have his own unique drive letter, and these drive letters are assigned by the operating system. But you, as an administrator, you can change these drive letters. Actually, also you can delete them. But if you delete a drive letter of a partition, what will happen? Will the partition or the drive itself will be deleted? No. But when you remove or delete a drive letter for any drive, all what will happen is that it will disappear from the File Explorer. But it will be there in your hard disk or storage device, but it will disappear. So sometimes we use this for security reason, and I will show you this in the practical session on this video. Normally, once the drive is assigned a drive letter, we don't recommend to change it, although the operating system allow you to change the drive letter. For example, in my case here, this partition is G, is assigned G. I can change that one, but sometimes it's not recommended, okay, for some reasons, so that some applications may not work, especially for the C. Okay, it's not recommended to change for the C because it's the operating system. So in general, we don't normally change the drive letter very often. Okay, this is for the drive letters. Now, what about the labels? Labels are names or string of characters given to each logical drives or drives. So as you can see, for example, here I have a drive label, Apple. This is family, Intel, private, okay? Now, by default, if you don't assign a drive letter, a drive label to a drive, it will automatically get this name. For example, like that one, local disk. So, for example, this has no label, so automatically is assigned by the operating system as a local disk. Here is another example. I have a drive here, doesn't have a label, so the default value for that one is a local disk. But you can change it. You can delete the drive labels, you can change, you can add, and we will see all these things in the practical demo on this video. Now, one difference between the label and the drive letter is that labels are not unique. What I mean by this, you may have two drives that they have the same label. Although we don't recommend this, but it's not like the drive letter. The drive letter, no, they should be uniquely identify the drive letter. But for the label, you can put the same name for different drive, but it's not a good practice. It is highly recommended to provide a label for each drives that you have so that you know what type of contents of data inside that drive. Now, the length for each label, the length of the label, it depends on the file system of that drive. If you have a drive that is formatted with FAT family, what I mean by FAT family, I mean FAT16, FAT32, EXFAT, the maximum number of characters in the drive label will be 11 characters. Whereas if your drive is formatted with NTFS, the maximum number of characters for the label is 32. So this is a very important point to know. Also, drive label should be in English. It will not accept any other characters, such as in Arabic. And we will see this in the practical side. So this is exactly what I have explained. Each drive has a drive letter and a drive label. The drive letter is a single alphabet letter assigned to the drive to uniquely identify it. And normally it's appended with a column such as C, D, M. No two drives can have the same drive letter. We explain this. If you have a drive that is not assigned a drive letter, it will be not shown on the File Explorer. So it will be somehow hidden from the File Explorer. And we will see this in practical. As I said, it's not recommended to change the drive letter very often. Now, about drive label is a string of characters assigned to the drive to indicate the purpose of the drive and or the type of the data inside it. So it's a simply it's a name. If no specific label is assigned to drive, then it is assigned by default this drive label, local disk. You may have two or more drives have the same label, but it's not recommended. As I said, only English letters are allowed. And the maximum characters for the label depends on the file system. 11 characters for the FAT family and 32 characters for the NTFS. It is recommended to assign a proper drive label for your drives. And very important point, you cannot assign a drive label to a drive if it is not formatted. So first you have to format your drive, then you can assign it a drive label. Now, to manage the drive letters and drive labels, we use the following tools. The first tool is the File Explorer, which is a graphical user interface. The second tool, we will use the disk management, which is again a graphical user interface. We have another tool, which is the command prompt, which is a command line interface. And also inside the command prompt, you can manage using the disk part. So those who did not watch the previous videos on this series, please do so, because we already cover all these tools in details. So these are the tools we will use to manage. The drive letters can be managed through disk management and disk part, whereas the drive label can be managed using all the 4 tools. Now, very important point to remember, each tool has its own features and limitations. So sometimes some tasks you cannot do it in one tool, you can do it in another tool. So from experience, you will know which tool you have to use based on the task that you want and how easy it is to do that task using that tool. And we will see this in the practical too also. Now, very important notice here is that to be able to manage the drive letters and the drive labels for your internal storage devices, you should have administrative privilege. In other words, you have to use administrator account. Whereas for external storage devices like USB flash drive or external hard disk, you don't need to be administrator. This is a very important point to remember. So now it is the time for the live demo. See you in the demonstration. Okay, welcome to the demonstration part. Now, normally, when we want more information about our logical drive partitions, normally we run File Explorer to see some information. So let us run the File Explorer. Sorry. And then we go to this PC. Now, as you can see, I can get some information about my logical drives and partitions. For example, here I can see that I have these partitions. Also, I can see the labels, I can see the drive letters. What also I can get out of this? For example, if you pay attention to partition I, which is this one, you see it doesn't have information about the size like the others. So I can know that this partition is not formatted. So that is good information. But what also I can know? I can know the file system for each partition. If you remember in our previous videos, we discussed what's the file system. The file system can be either the FAT family or NTFS, and it is specified when you when you format the partition. So if I ask you what is the file system for any one of these, very simple, from the File Explorer and this PC, you just go to the partition that you want to check. For example, here, if you right-click this partition C, then if you go to the properties, as you can see here, it gives you the file system. So for my case, CS drive is formatted with NTFS, and plus also some information about the size. So let me go to another one. Let's go to the Google and go properties again. You see it says here FAT is file system is FAT, and we said that if you see FAT without any number, this means it's FAT 16. Let's go to another one. Let's go to Apple. Apple is EXFAT, so you can get some information. Gentlemen, what do you think about the partition C? What do you think the file system for that one? Actually, for C, it is not you who specify the file system. It is the installation. During the operating system installation, the setup program will decide the file system, and normally it is formatted with NTFS because NTFS is the most powerful file system. So no wonder here if the C where my operating system is stored should be formatted as NTFS. So let us confirm this fact. If I right click the C and go to the properties, yeah, as you can see, NTFS and some information about it. That's it. But what about other information? For example, if you ask any person how many internal storage devices you have in your computer or in your laptop, or are you utilizing all the storage in your storage devices? Many people, they come to the File Explorer and come here, especially the non-IT, and thinking that each one of these is a separate storage device. But we, as an IT professional, we know that these icons not necessarily mean separate storage devices. These can be logical drives or partitions. So what I want to tell you is that don't be misled by this here. Sometimes we have some partitions that are not shown here at all. If you remember in our discussion, we said some partition, if you don't assign it a drive letter, it will disappear from here. So if you want to get the full information about your storage devices, especially the internal one, we normally go to the disk management tool, not from the File Explorer. There you will find the complete picture. So let us see this in our computer. So let me minimize this one, and I will go to the start menu and then type the command disk mgmt.msc. And if you remember, no, there is a mistake here, I think. Let me just correct it. Disk mgmt.msc. We covered this in our previous videos. So please, if you didn't watch our previous videos in this series, please, I highly advise you to go there because we fully explain this program. Now, if you remember, I have to run this this program as administrator. So I will press Ctrl Shift Enter, and I will provide my administrator password. Now, look here. Let me maximize. You see here in this program, this very important and very useful program, it shows you every single detail. So now I can decide that my computer has actually two separate internal storage devices. I have disk 0 and disk 1, and here it shows me each storage device, how it is partitioned, how many partitions, and each partition how much space. So for example, now I know that I have two hard disks, not one. Also, what can I understand from this picture? For example, in disk 0, I noticed that I have storage space that is not utilized, almost 20 giga, as you can see. You see, this means I have not fully utilizing my disk 0. So here I can create a partition, then I can format it, and I benefit from that one. So this is if you want the full information about your internal storage devices, I highly recommend to run the disk management console, this program. Then you have a complete picture. Don't be misled from whatever you have here. So let us see, for example, one thing here. Let us start with the drive letters. For example, if you pay attention here, this partition, it has a label, but there is no drive letter. For some reason, somebody removed it, or for some reason, it doesn't have a drive letter. And we said that in our theory explanation at the beginning of this video, we said any logical drive or partition that doesn't have a drive letter, it will not show on the File Explorer. So if you pay attention here, that label is Microsoft. So if I go to the File Explorer, you see I don't have anything for Microsoft here. So although the partition is there, you see, and it's formatted FAT32 and it's healthy and primary partition, but it's not shown in the File Explorer. Why is that? Because it doesn't have a drive letter. So now we will learn the first task is how to assign a drive letter for any partition. Very simple. You right click the partition and then you come to this option, change drive letters and path. You click that one. Then here you click the add button. And from here, you in the first option assign the following drive letter. You will have a list of all the drive letters that are available. So you can choose any drive letter. Okay, for example, I will choose M. Then I say okay. Now look here what happened. Sometimes you need to refresh your PC or your program so that you can see the drive letter. So if I go to the action and refresh, yeah, now the drive letter is assigned to my logical drive here. So now, gentlemen, if I go to File Explorer, now I can see that partition and I can access it. So let us see. Do I have Microsoft here? Yeah, this one. You see, now it appeared. Before it was not shown. And now I can access it. I can double click it. And as you can see, it has also some files. I have data. So it was not shown because it doesn't have a drive letter. So we now learned how to add a drive letter. What about if you want to hide a logical drive? For example, let us try to hide this partition, private, which has a drive letter P. If we go first, let me go here and let us see what is inside it. So this is the partition. I want to hide it. If I go now, double click it. Now it's appearing here. Double click it. You see it has some files. Now for security reason, for example, I want to hide this partition. I don't want this partition to appear in File Explorer. So what can I do? I can remove the drive letter. From where? From the disk management, from here. So if you come to the disk management and you go to this partition, right click again, and we go to the same option. And in this case, I will select remove. Of course, it gives me a warning here. Are you sure? I said yes. Now what happened here? I did not delete that partition, but all what I did is I removed the drive letter. Once I remove the drive letter, it will disappear from my Explorer. So the other users, they will not be able to access it. So if I go to the File Explorer and look to the private partition, you see it disappear. It is a hidden now. It's unshown here. I hope it's clear. Now, if you later on, you want to access these files, very simple. Again, you run the disk management, you go to that partition again, and you assign it a drive letter. Again, right click, change drive letter, add. You can give it the same drive letter that it was before, but you can change anyone. But let me use the same one. P, it was B, okay. You see, it directly recognizes it and it show me the file, the partition. So if I close that one, now it has a drive letter. If I go to the File Explorer, now you see, what is that? Yeah, it is here. And if I double click, I have the files there. So it did not delete the files. I hope this is clear how to add and remove the drive letter. So this is about the drive letter. Now let us go to the drive labels. Again, we have two ways to manage the drive label. If I go to the File Explorer again and this PC, now if you pay attention here, I have a partition here, the C. It says local disk. This means, if you remember, if a partition doesn't have a label, it will default to this local disk. Also, I think I have H here, again, local disk, so it's not assigned a specific data label. So if you want, you can assign. One way is through the File Explorer itself, very simple. You just right-click any partition, then you go to the properties, and as you can see in this text box, you can type the volume, the label that you want. But if you remember, you have to be an administrator. So let us see what will happen now. For example, this is my C. I will give it a label, Windows, for example, 11, and I will specify the edition, Pro. Normally we said we give a label that it has a meaning for what the content of the partition. So now look here what will happen when I say OK, press OK. It gives me this message. It says to me, you have to be administrator. And we explained this in the beginning of the video. We said that if you want to change the labels, you have to have administrator password. Now I simply click continue, and it asks me here for a prompt for a password for administrator password. I will provide it. Maybe you don't see it, but I can see it, and then I say yes. You see it changed the label, and it's reflected here. So this is one way to change the label from the File Explorer, from the GUI. Now we will see the other way from the command prompt where you can manage the labels. For example, we want to change the label for H and give it a label. So let me now close that one, or not close, let me minimize this one, also this one. Now let us go to CMD and press enter. Now in the CMD, I have a command known as a label. So I want to change the label for the H partition. So simply you just type label space, and then you put the drive letter for the drive that you want to change its label. So you see this is the command, very simple. Label space, and then you put the drive letter. Now let us press enter. You see it asks you here the volume. It says the volume in drive H has no label, and here it gives you a chance to put a prompt to type a label for that partition. And also here it gives you what's the maximum. You see 32 character. This means this H is formatted with NTFS. We discussed this in the theory part at the beginning of this video. We said if the partition is NTFS, the maximum character is 32. If it is FAT family, FAT16, FAT32, or EXFAT, you will see here up to 11 character. So I can get that information that H is NTFS from this number. So let me just type here HP. I want to give it the label HP and press enter. You see here, it gives me an error message. It says access denied, as you do not have sufficient privileges. So this is another proof that you cannot change the label unless you are administrator. Now I run this command prompt as a standard user, not administrator. So you see, I just wanted to show you this message. So I have to close that one. And again, I will run CMD, but this time I will not press enter. Instead, I will press Ctrl-Shift-Enter. And it asks me now for the administrator password. I will provide my administrator password and say yes. Now the command prompt is working as an administrator, and you see there is a here administrator, this word. So this means that my command prompt now is working as an elevated command prompt, or a command prompt with the administrator privilege. So now I can simply say label space and then H. This is how simple the command is, and press enter. Again, it asks you to put a label here. So simply I will type HP and press enter. You see it finished, and it didn't give me any error message. If I want to make sure that it's changed, I simply go File Explorer here. You see now it changed that one to HV. So this means I was able to change the label for that one. Now, if you want to change the label, for example, Google, let us change the label for that one. Again, simply you say label and G, press enter. You see again, it's telling me that the current label is Google, but it gives me here to enter the new label if I want. If you notice here, it gives me 11 character. So what does this mean? This means that G is formatted in one of the FAT file system, FAT family. So let us make sure, by the way, let's go to the G and go to the properties. You see it's FAT, so FAT 16. That's why the label, the maximum is 11. But if you remember, for H, it gives me 32 because definitely H is NTFS. If I right click properties, you see it's NTFS. So now I can change the label for that one. For example, if I say homework, I will change the label from Google to homework. Okay. Then press enter. You see it finish. And if we go back to this File Explorer, you see it changed to homework. Now, if I want to delete the label of any one of these, very simple. You just, for example, for the G, you type the same thing, label, space G, enter. But this time, don't type anything here, just press enter. It will ask you, do you delete the current volume label? If you type yes, it will delete. If type no, N. If you type Y, sorry, it will mean it will delete. So if I press Y, you see it didn't give me an error message. Let's go back to the File Explorer. You see the label back again to the default, which is local disk. So this is how you can manage the labels using either from here, File Explorer, right-click Properties, and you can change it from here, or from the command prompt. Now, as a last step here, let me, since I am an administrator and I have the I is not formatted, let me format it. And you can assign a label while you are formatting a drive partition. By the way, I cannot change the drive label because it's not formatted. For example, if I say label I and press enter, you see it says to me parameter not compatible. Maybe you don't understand what's that, but it means you cannot change the label of I because it is not formatted, and we explained this in our at the beginning of the video. Again, if I try it from the GUI, from File Explorer here, right-click, Properties. If I type something here, for example, if I type, what should I type here? Private, not a private, data, for example. If I click here, OK, you see it gives me an error. It says the drive is not formatted. You must format it before you can label it. So we have to format it. You know, you can format it from here, right-click, and you format it from here. It asks for administrator, but I will format it from the command prompt to and we explained this fully in our previous videos. So I will type format. Remember, I am not in the disk part, I am in the command prompt. So the format command is different. So I will format, then you specify the logical drive, the drive letter of that logical drive that you want. I want to format I, so format I, then slash file system, and 2 column, and you specify the file system. For example, I wanted FAT32, and then I want to specify the label /v, okay, and here I can specify any label I want, okay, for example Samsung, then /q so that doesn't take time. So those who want to know about how this command is working, please watch our previous videos on the learning in the learning series, managing storage devices. So now, if I press enter, it asks me, "Are you sure?" I will press yes. Oh, it gives me an error message. That's good, so that you know why. Sometimes in IT, especially IT people, they like the error message because it's a learning tool. We can learn from it. What is saying to me? It says that you cannot partition I because it is the size is almost 500 gigabyte, and I am trying to format it FAT32, and this is not possible. Again, we explained this in our previous videos. So here, I can either format it as NTFS or EXFAT. So let us format it as EXFAT. Not FAT32, but I will change this one, EXFAT. And press enter now. Are you sure? Yes. Yeah, excellent. You see, it finished and it's formatted. And I assign it a label again. So let's go back. Yeah, you see. So we learned in this video how to manage the drive letters and the drive labels from the GUI and from the command line interface. I hope this video was very useful for you, and see you in the next videos. Okay, one last important point just to remember: don't be misled by the file explorer. So if anyone asks you about your internal storage devices and you want to get the full pictures, don't be missed by the file explorer. Although it shows you some information, but it will not show you the full picture. The best tool is the disk management, and you have to run it as administrator. There you will find all the information: how many internal storage devices, how many partitions, which partitions in which storage device, and whether you have any unallocated space that is not utilized, where you can create partitions and you can manage all things on your internal storage devices. Hope that was useful. Thank you so much.